morning, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to take a moment to quickly introduce myself. I promise you won't be watching a talking head for the next hour or so. My name is Jane. I'm one of 3 academic advisors in the Faculty of Science. So there's myself, there's Haley, and there's Kim. And our job is primarily to help science students, so students who are registered through the Faculty of Science, with all of your program information. So it's our job to help you navigate the system, essentially. There's lots of things you'll need to know, including which courses you're going to need for which programs, grade requirements. If you end up in academic trouble, we're the ones that can help you. And if you're ever not sure where to go for help on campus, trust me, we know where to send you if we don't know the answer ourselves. So feel free to contact us or reach out to us at any point if you have any questions. So I'm going to talk to you a bit today about all the different things you need to do in order to get registered for your first semester, what your program is kind of going to look like, and the tools that you're going to use to manage your program as you go. All right, so let's start by introducing you to the various tools that you're going to be using. So first things first, we have the undergraduate calendar. Now the undergraduate calendar is available on our website, and you're going to be using this throughout your time here. So it's really important that you guys know how to find it. On the University of Regina website, we have this black bar, and this one appears at the top of all of our websites. And right over on the right-hand side, you'll see there's a button that says Academic Calendars and Schedules. If you click on that button, you'll come to a list here of the academic calendars, schedules, and course catalog. And I'll show you all 3 of these today. But for now, if you go to academic calendars, the full undergraduate calendar is right here. And if you open that up, you'll find, now the important thing for you to know about this calendar is that it's essentially, like, think of it as your Bible for the next 4 years, because all of the rules and regulations are in here and you are going to need to know them. Now, I'm going to point out a few sections I think you should read. Obviously, you don't have to read this thing back to front, but there are some sections that you're going to want to familiarize yourself with. First of all, important dates and deadlines I'll cover a little bit later. There is some information about tuition and fees in here, student awards, financial aid, class registration, etc. Do take some time and read through the Student Code of Conduct and Right to Appeal, as well as the academic regulations portion. You guys should be familiar with those. There's some general information for students, and then our Faculty of Science section. So for science students, that's the one you're going to want to familiarize yourself. And in the Faculty of Science section, if I jump down there, you'll see all of the science regulations, as well as, if you scroll down just a bit, the actual programs that we offer in the Faculty of Science. Now, I'll talk about those a little bit more in a few minutes, but if you're looking to see which courses are required for which program, or which programs are even offered in the Faculty of Science, they are all listed here. So if you're not sure yet what program you're interested in, take a read through here and see what's available. You'll see that all of our programs are offered. And last but not least, of course, we have the University of Regina website. Now, there is everything that you're going to need to know on this website. All of our programs, all of our policies, they're all shown on the website. And I would suggest that you familiarize yourself with this future and new students portion, as it will connect you to a lot of the services that Kayla was mentioning on campus. Under faculties and academic units, there's the Faculty of Science. So if you click on that, you'll get to the science webpage, which has, again, a lot of information specific to science students, as well as to connections to all of the departments. So you will want to take some time and familiarize yourself with this, because you'll be using it a lot. And of course, I'll be going through it a lot today. So I'm just going to touch very briefly on pre-professional programs. And I don't know if we have any pre-professional students in the group, but just in case we do, I want to mention that you don't graduate with a pre-med degree. So you don't get a bachelor in pre-med or a bachelor in pre-dentistry. What we mean by pre-professional programs is that as a U of R student, you are welcome to register in any program. And within that program, you can take the courses that are required to meet the admissions requirements or application requirements for the professional institution. So for example, if you're interested in applying to medicine, medicine requires that you have a previous bachelor's degree. You can do that bachelor's degree at the U of R, and as advisors, we can help make some recommendations in terms of courses that will help you prepare for the MCAT and meet other admission requirements. Similarly, pharmacy at the University of Saskatchewan requires at least 2 years or 60 credit hours worth of courses that you can take at the U of R and complete before you're eligible to apply. to your professional program. So typically students who are interested in professional programs will choose a major or an undergraduate degree program to work on alongside those admission requirements. We call that a preparation degree. And you would work on the two at the same time. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this today because it does go into a lot of nitty-gritty details, but if you're one of these students, I do recommend that you schedule a one-on-one appointment with one of us to discuss the professional admission requirements that you need and how they translate into U of R courses, because course codes are different across institutions. But if you are interested in that, do reach out to us and we can help manage that. Programs that are actually offered by the Faculty of Science. Here's a brief list of them here. There are actually several programs in each of these areas, but it'll give you a bit of an idea. For those of you who already know what you want to study, that's great. We can start there. For those of you who don't know, we have programs ranging from actuarial science, curious who all knows what that means, which is a heavy financial statistics degree program, to biology, to chemistry, computer science, geology, earth science, math, stats, physics. We do offer bachelors of science in psychology and economics. So those are options for students as well. If you're interested in those programs, either of the departments are housed in the Faculty of Arts. We do offer BScs in those programs, and so we can help you with those if those are of interest. Again, all of the details of these programs are outlined in the calendar. So if you're interested in seeing what any of these are about, or like what's the difference between geography and geology, you can look at the calendar and the website to get more information about those. So if you have a minute, what I would recommend if you're following along on a computer is to find the program that you want to work towards in the calendar. Because when we get to the registration portion, you're going to be referring to it for your course list. Okay. So Stella mentioned there are many services available on campus, and she just brushed the surface. There are tons of them. But I just want to highlight our office really quick. This is us. That's Corinne over there. She's one of our lovely support staff, and Angela sits at the other desk, and Eric sits in the back. And these folks know everything there is to know about registration. So if you're ever having trouble with the system, or you have a registration question, or if you email us at science@uregina.ca, these lovely ladies can help you out. If they can't, they will certainly direct your question to one of us. They've been here, well, I think Angela's been here for about 10 years, Corinne's been here for about 5, and they do a great job. They know everything that there is to know about registration, so feel free to ask those questions. We also have the Science Student Services website attached to our science website, and when we're on campus, you can reach us by phone at the 4199 number. If you need to schedule an appointment with an academic advisor, this is where you would contact, and they would set that appointment up for you. So feel free again to contact us if you have any questions. Now, Kayla did touch on the academic standards. I'm just going to talk a little bit about these from a more broad perspective. Just in terms of university, you do have to maintain a certain level of performance in order to continue studying at the university. And so it's important for you to know that when we're looking at our grades, 50% is considered a passing grade for any one course. So that means when you register for a course, you're graded on a percentage basis from 0 to 100. As long as you get a 50% or higher, you will receive credit for the course, and it is considered a pass. That should be similar to what you experienced in high school, but some systems are a little bit different. So 50% is what you're aiming for to pass. 50% is okay if you need one math course and then you can move on with the rest of your day. That's fine. 50% is not going to get you to graduation, though. It's important for you to know that in order to graduate from your program, you actually need a 65% average across all of your courses, the ones that we use in your program. So for every program that we have, if you do a bachelor's degree program, it would be 120 credit hours or 40 courses. So in those 40 courses, you need an average of 65% in order to graduate. You also need to maintain an average of 65% in the courses that are in your major. So I'm just going to show you what that means really quickly. If I go back to the website, and I go back to the calendar where we can see our programs. This is the BSc in biology. Actually, let's see if I can find one more page. Yeah, here's one. So this is the BSc in biology for the cellular molecular concentration. So that's a very particular program that we have. But it does show you a bit of the structure of the program. So as you can see, we have sort of this top section here. This top section are courses that are considered to be within the major. So in order to graduate, you're going to need to get at least a 65% average in all of these courses here. Now, if one of them is at 50, like say the Stat 100, and another one is at 70, that's fine. That's going to average out at about 60. So that's how that works. Essentially, amongst these courses, altogether, you need an average above 65 to graduate. And then we have this bottom section here. Now, we refer to this bottom section as electives, which is a little bit misleading because you'll see that English 100 and English 110 are both required courses. So you do have to take them. They're not really that elective. But you also have some courses from different categories. So in this case, arts, la cité, or media and performance courses. So any arts, la cité, or media and performance course will fit in that slot. So we need to fill in our elective portion as well. So your program average includes the courses in your major as well as your electives. And that makes up your program GPA. And that needs to be a 65% as well. So again, 50% will get you credit and check this course off your list, but it's not quite high enough to meet that graduating average. You'll have to compensate for it. So if you're getting grades below 65, you may want to connect with one of your advisors to see about resources that are available on campus to help you. Okay. So that's our graduating standards. Now, you don't have to have a 65% the whole time that you're here, especially in your first year. A lot of students, it takes a little bit of time for them to adjust to university. You do need to maintain an average above 60% overall in order to maintain good academic standing. So as long as your average is above 60%, you're not graduating necessarily, but you are allowed to continue studying and to raise that average up. Now, I call the range between 60 and 65% is kind of the danger zone. Because if you drop below 60%, you'll be placed on academic probation and we'll contact you and we'll sit down with you and make a plan. But if you're between 60 and 65%, we're not necessarily going to reach out to you. You're going to need to contact us and let us know that you're in trouble. Because in that range, things are only going to get more in depth and detailed as you go. So we want to make sure that we tackle that early. So unless you're getting that 65, you might want to connect with somebody. As long as you're getting 60% or higher, you're allowed to continue studying. If you drop below that, then we're looking at some academic probation issues. So then you want to come see us for sure. Okay. And again, there are some letter grades, as Kayla mentioned. Grade of W is a withdrawal. The neutral grade, we pretty much ignore it. So as long as you withdraw before that withdrawal deadline, you get a grade of W. Now, really quickly, this always reminds me to show you guys where to find those important dates. And so I'm just going to take a moment and show you where to find that. So if we go back to the University of Regina website, the academic schedule and calendars page. I can put it on so if we go to academic schedules, it'll actually pull it up here, 2021. So this is actually recreated every year because the dates vary by a couple of days either way. What we're going to be looking at for this semester is fall 2020, so that's our upcoming fall semester. So all of our important dates are right here. So if I go over to the left, we can see that the start of classes will be September 2nd, so that's our first day of lectures. Our end of classes will be December the 8th. We do have a final exam period that's about 3 weeks long. So this year it runs from December 9th to December 23rd. So all of your final exams will take place within that range. And then we'll be home for a break, December, January. And then we'll be returning January 11th. Notice underneath that we have our class add drop date. So these are the dates that Kayla was showing you earlier. So our end course add period is September 16th and our no record drop period is also September 16th. So that means between the start of classes, September 2nd, and the add drop date, which is September 16th, you can actually make changes to your registration. So once you receive that course syllabus, if you're mapping out your schedule and you're, a little bit worried or it's a little bit too much, or, let's say you've got 3 major papers due on the same day, that's not going to work for you. You might want to make a change to your registration at that time. You're more than welcome to drop classes up until September 16th. You will not respond to tuition in that case for that class, and it won't even be recorded on your transcript. So that's sort of a no record. You can make changes right up until that date. So you have about a week and a bit after classes begin to make changes to your registration. After that date, you can still drop a course. You can drop a course, in fact, up until November the 16th. Now, as Kayla mentioned, that's a little bit late, and you have taken a seat in that class at that point, so you will be responsible for tuition. But if you drop the course before November 16th, you get that grade of W, which is a neutral grade, and we pretty much ignore it. So you don't have to worry about the grade at that point. It won't be negatively affecting your transcript. So if you're repeating a course, So you're allowed to take any course at the University of Regina twice. So let's say you take a course the first time, you fail it, you take it the second time, and by this point you know it's not going well, you might want to consider dropping that course. And I would recommend at that point making an appointment with an advisor who can help you out and help you determine whether that's the best course of action or not. If you drop after that November 16th date, then you get a grade of NP. A grade of NP is a failing grade and counts as 40%. So at that point, it's probably better to finish out the class, do the best you can. At the very least, you'll be exposed to all the material so that when you repeat the course again, you sort of know what to expect and you have all of that material available to you. You'll also want to pay attention to important dates here, like when tuition and fees are due, penalty periods, and then of course our holidays. So on these days, there are no classes. They are holidays where the university is closed, so it's a good idea to make sure those are in your calendar because you don't want to be the only person who shows up for a class on Victoria Day, for example. All right, so back to the grades. Okay, so that's our withdrawal grade. Again, if you drop before the deadline, you can get that grade of W, and we pretty much ignored it. It does not count as an attempt for purposes of repeats. We just sort of forget that ever happened. There are occasions where you will be marked as a pass or a fail. Typically, this would come in the case of like a co-op term or something like that, or a seminar that you have to attend. Pass-fail does not affect your UGPA, but if you need credit for the course for your program, then a grade of P would be required. NP is the grade you would receive if you dropped after the course deadline. It's also a grade that you would receive if you fail to complete one of the course requirements. So for example, if the professor gives you the syllabus and there are 6 assignments that you're going to be graded on and you fail to hand in one of those assignments, or if you fail to write the final exam, you will receive a grade of NP, which again is a failing grade and counts as 40%, which is incidentally the lowest that we're going to count. So if you receive a numerical grade, let's say you hand in all of your assignments, you do very poorly, let's say you get a grade of 32, I think the lowest I ever saw was a 3, which is impressive, then we would count it as a 40 for purposes of calculating your UGPA. But we want to avoid the NPs. They look pretty bad on your transcript. It does show a lack of follow through, and the only reason you get this is if you failed to complete the assignments. So this really is a case where it is better to hand in something rather than nothing. So make sure you at least attempt all of your assignments. And if you can't be there for an exam for some reason, you know, if you end up in the hospital for some reason or something, let us know. We will help you. Otherwise, those assignments are expected to be handed in on time. And last but not least, we have the XF grade. Now, this one I don't want to see on your transcripts ever. It is a grade for academic misconduct. So that includes cheating or plagiarism. And it counts as a 0%. Something else to make note of with this particular grade is that with an NP or a failing grade, if you repeat the course, what's going to happen is we will ignore the first attempt. So we will exclude the failing grade or whatever you received the first time. We will only count the grade that you received for the second attempt. So let's say you take English 100, you get a 44 the first time, you take it again the following semester, you get a 75. We will exclude that 44 from your calculation. We will only count the 75, which is wonderful. Same thing with NP. We'll ignore the NP if that's your first attempt and replace it with whatever you get the second time. With a grade of XF, 0, it stays there forever. So even if you repeat the class, we then count both of them. So this can really hurt your transcript. We want to avoid this at all costs. And the best way to do that is to familiarize yourself with what constitutes academic integrity and making sure that you're following the requirements there. So just generally speaking, when it comes to academic integrity, it's important for you guys to know that students are expected to do their own original individual work unless you're told otherwise. Now, this doesn't mean you can't work in study groups. You absolutely can. It just means that when you hand in an assignment, that has to be your work. If there's group work, then obviously it's assigned to that way. You'll be handing in your work as a group, but even then it should be your group's work. So no copy pasting, no you know, taking other ideas from other people unless you give them credit. So students are expected to give credit for other people's ideas or words. We're in academia, we use other people's ideas all the time. That's why we spend so much time in the library. So long as you cite your sources properly, you'll be okay. We build on other people's ideas all the time. If you don't know how to cite those sources properly, it's really important that you get that skill early on. Now, English 100 is a course that actually does help you learn how to do that. We also have our English workshops, and the Student Success Center has some workshops on academic citation styles. We use 3 at the University of Regina. There's APA, Chicago, and MLA. In the Faculty of Science, we typically use APA, so that's the one you'll be encountering most frequently in the Faculty of Science. The professor will tell you which citation style they expect you to use, but here's a bit of a secret. Even if you use the wrong citation style, as long as you are citing your sources, you're not going to run into trouble for academic integrity. You might run into a little bit of trouble with the grading issue, but you won't run into trouble for academic integrity. So make sure that you're familiar with at least one of those citation styles really early. There are a million resources available online to help with this. APA is one that I had to work with going through my undergraduate, and it was a nightmare to learn. But now Microsoft Word actually has plugins. So if I type my resources in there, it will actually prepare my APA citations for me. So there are some really good tools that can help you manage this. If you have any questions about academic integrity, you're not sure about your citation styles, or you're concerned at all, oh my gosh, is this infringing on academic integrity? Don't be scared to ask your professors. They are more than happy to help you with this piece. This is a really important skill that you'll be learning early on, and will help you throughout your program. Okay. So on to other things like managing your communications with the university. Now, it is extremely important that you are receiving your URegina email. The Faculty of Science and the University of Regina uses your URegina email address as our official form of communication. So you will not be receiving things in the mail. You will be receiving your URegina email address. So it's really important that you have this set up. So I'm actually going to walk you through that now. So for those of you who are on the computer, feel free to follow along and actually do this now. If not, I would suggest it's the first thing you do when you get off this webinar is get your URegina email address set up. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Back to the website. Okay. So back to our University of Regina website. Again, this black bar at the top, webmail is the second one in. If you just click on that, it will take us to our webmail login page. Now, this is where you can log into your email. You just enter your username and password and hit login, and it will take you to your webmail client, but you guys need your username. So first thing we need to do is go over to this click link box, which is right on the right-hand side here, and go to find your username and password, new students only. Now just keep note that once you have your username and password, you can actually go to this box as well, and it will show you how to forward your email to your phone or to whatever other email you want to do. You're more than welcome to do that. I would recommend that you check your email, I'd say at a weekly basis minimum, preferably more than that, because that's, you know, if there's something important, it's going to be coming through here. But if we go find your username and password, it will open up a new page for us where we can actually enter our student number. So this is your student ID. It's that 9-digit number that starts with 200. You enter that and your birth date in 6 digits, day, month, year, and then click find your username. Once you've done that, your username will pop up at the top. Now it's usually some combination of the first few letters of your last name and some numbers. It's not the prettiest thing ever, but your email address will be your username at uregina.ca. So that's your University of Regina email address. And again, we will be using that for just about everything important that comes out of the university. Now, feel free to use it. This is your email address and it's yours forever. And when it comes to emailing, for example, if you're filling out your resume or you need a professional email address for jobs, applications, those kinds of things, a university email address is considered quite professional, much more so than, say, a Hotmail or a Yahoo account, just in terms of email etiquette is concerned. So feel free to use your URegina email for that. And like I said, make sure that you're checking it on a regular basis, because that is going to be the way that we contact you most frequently. So if you weren't able to set it up well on the webinar with me, make sure that that's the first thing that you do after we sign off today. And then when you have time, if you want to go through and actually have it forwarded to your phone or to a client you like the best, Gmail, absolutely fine. One bit of warning about that is that Hotmail, I think, thinks that we're spam. So you have to put us on the whitelist. Make sure that your email client doesn't think that we're junk mail. So make sure you mark us as a safe sender so that you receive those emails, because that's how we're going to contact you. Okay, here's the email piece. Now, we're going to get into the nitty-gritties of registration. Now, this part can be a little boring, but I am going to ask you to please follow along. 90% of the questions I get from students about registration are going to be answered in this webinar, so please pay attention. Feel free to follow along as we go, and hopefully I can answer all of your questions. Again, if you have questions as we go, please feel free to connect through the Q&A. All right, when can I register? We have 3 semesters at the University of Regina. We have the fall semester, which starts in September. We have the winter semester, which starts in January and goes until April. And then we have the summer or spring-summer semester. We use that term fairly interchangeably. We consider this one semester, even though there's actually like 10 parts to that semester, we consider this one semester. Now we register for the fall semester starting in March. We register for the winter semester starting in October, November. So depending on how many courses you've already taken, that will determine the actual date. But usually I think Halloween, oh, I better start thinking about registration for the winter semester. And then we register for the summer and the fall semester starting at the same time in March. So typically the way I think of it is Halloween, Valentine's Day. Those are the two dates that I want to start thinking about registration for the following semester. The actual date that you're eligible to register depends upon how many courses you've already taken. So it's something that we call your time ticket. And the more classes that you have already taken, the sooner you are eligible to register for classes. Now that kind of sucks for you right now because you're right at the beginning, you haven't taken any classes, you are among the last to register. So when you go to register for classes today, you'll probably find that there are courses that have students in them already. When it does help you is in your fourth year when you need these exact 5 classes in order to graduate, you get first crack at registration. So you will be able to register for all the other students and make sure that you get a seat in the courses that you need to graduate. So kind of sucks right now, but as you go through, you will find that this comes in really handy when it comes time to actually try to meet those last few requirements that you need. Your time ticket will be published on UR self-service, which I'm going to show you today. So I'll show you where you can find your time ticket. As of today, it's open registration for the fall semester. So all of you should be able to register for the fall semester starting today. So if you register today, you'll have the best pick of courses that are available. All right, how many courses should I take? That's another question I get all the time. Now, Kayla mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I'm just going to review it again. For every one course that you take, we're looking at 3 credit hours. Now, what that means essentially is that you're going to be in your lectures or in classroom time for about 3 hours per week, which does not sound like a lot. But for every hour that you're in class, you can expect about 3 hours worth of homework. So the way I add it up is, let's say I take 5 courses, which is the maximum you're allowed to take, and I multiply that by 3 hours a week. That's 15 hours a week in class. That sounds like nothing, especially since you're used to high school where you're in Monday to Friday, 8 to 4. So 15 hours a week does not sound like a lot, but when you multiply that by 3 hours of homework or lab work, now we're looking at 45 hours a week. So that is the equivalent to just slightly over a full-time job. So if your only commitment is school, if you don't have a part-time job, you don't have kids, you don't have other obligations, 5 hours a week, or 5 courses, sorry, 45 hours a week is totally doable. If you manage your schedule well, you can even manage a social life in there that's really healthy. But if you have other obligations, you've got a job or you've got kids, or you just can't put that much time into school, you have other things that you want to do, extracurricular activities, for example, volunteer work, sports, those kinds of things. You may want to look and just take a look and decide, how much time am I willing to commit to university per week? And then choose your course load according to that. Now, again, some of us have other obligations regarding our course time. So as Kayla mentioned, 3 to 6 credit hours or 1 to 2 classes, you're considered a part-time student. And part-time is perfectly okay with us. I've been a student at the university for 16 years. Oh my gosh, way too long. I take a course alongside my full-time job, and I have a little one. So I can take like 1 course at a time, maybe 2 if I'm feeling really ambitious that semester, and I'm a part-time student, and that's fine. I chip away at my programs, and that's okay. If you need to be a full-time student, so let's say you're on a student loan that requires full-time, you have a scholarship that requires full-time, you need to be taking at least 3 to 5 classes per semester. Now, when we say that, we mean the fall and winter semester. Summertime, a lot of students will take off. Sometimes students will take summer courses, and that's absolutely okay as well. Just note that in the summertime, there are different course limits. You're allowed to take a total of 4 classes over the summer. And if you are interested in taking some summer courses next year, do contact the advisors so that we can let you know sort of how that semester works, because it's a little bit wonky. But for the fall and winter semester, 3 to 5 classes is considered full-time. You will be eligible for scholarships, student loans, and any other full-time requirements that you have to meet. As long as you're in 3 courses, you should be able to do that. Now, just as a side note, a lot of students will start with 3 or 4 courses in the fall, just until they sort of get a handle on university and figure out what systems are going to work for them, and then increase it later. that's absolutely okay too. So use your judgment here. You know what your obligations are and what your attention span is. So figure out how much time you're willing to commit to university and then base your course load off of that. Now, what courses should I take? This is the one that gets a little bit tricky, and I am going to spend time on this very boring chart and explain a little bit about each of these courses, and this will give me a chance to talk about prerequisites as well. So bear with me. I know this portion is a little bit boring, but it is really important information for you to know. So I am going to go through the list here is basically a list of first-year courses that are recommended for science students. Now, depending on your program, these courses may or may not be required. But as I go through, it will help introduce you to the different kinds of courses that are available and the different kinds of ways that we organize our courses. So let's just start up at the top. I'm going to go through one by one. So if I have any biology students or students interested in pre-professional programs, Biology 100 and 101 are going to be important for you. Biology 100 is usually offered in the fall, and Biology 101 rather, is usually offered in the winter semester. So that's the first thing to note, is that not all classes are available every semester. Sometimes they're only offered once per year, so you need to pay attention to when those courses are going to be. I'll show you in the calendar where to find some of that information, but for the most part, starting out, what you need to know is Biology 100 is usually offered in the fall and 101 usually in the winter. Biology 100 doesn't actually have any prerequisites, but Biology 30 and Chem 30, so grade 12 biology and chemistry, are recommended. Now, recommended is not required. So everybody could register in the Biology 100 course if you choose. But note that if a course is recommended as a prerequisite, even if it's not recommended, they're going to assume that you have a little bit of background there. If you don't, it probably means a little bit more reading for you. So that's something you want to take note of, is that if you don't have a recommended prerequisite, you might spend a little more time just making sure you fully understand the concepts in this course. If you have the recommended prerequisites, then you're probably in a good position to do well here. All right, Chemistry 104. Now, chemistry is organized a little bit differently. So what you'll notice is that Chemistry 104 is actually the first level, university level chemistry course. And students who are interested in chemistry or biochemistry or pre-professional programs, this is a good place to start in chemistry. And Chemistry 104 is actually the prerequisite for both Chemistry 105 and Chemistry 140. So General Chemistry 1, Chem 104. General Chemistry 2 is Chem 105, and Organic Chemistry 1 is Chem 140. So you need this course before you can take either of these courses. And this is the first year chemistry course. However, what you want to pay attention to is Chemistry 104 actually has prerequisites. So science is a bit unique at the university in the sense that we have high school prerequisites for our classes. And this can be a little bit frustrating if you didn't know what these were when you were choosing your grade 12 courses. But we do try to offer some courses to try and bridge those gaps where we need to. So the Chemistry 104 prerequisites include Chemistry 30, so grade 12 chemistry, or Chemistry 100 with a minimum of 65%. So what this means is that you need to have either grade 12 chemistry with a 65% or higher, or if you didn't get chemistry in grade 12, you can take Chemistry 100 at the University of Regina and get a minimum 65%, and that will meet your chemistry prerequisite there. However, you also need, so that's this big and is, and Pre-Calculus 30 with a minimum 65%. And if you didn't get your Pre-Calculus 30 in grade 12, you can take, depending on where you are in the math sequence, and I will talk about that in detail in a minute, you need your Adult Math 092 with a minimum 80% or Math 102. So if you didn't get the Pre-Calc 30 in high school, that's okay. We do have options at the University of Regina to fill that gap so that you can meet the prerequisite to take Chem 104 later. Now, Chemistry 104 is the first chemistry course that's required for a chemistry degree. If you have to take Chem 100 first to meet the prerequisite, that's fine. We'll use Chemistry 100 as a science elective, similarly with Math 102. Math 102, Chem 100, those 100 level courses we will use as a science elective in your program. So they don't go to waste, we'll still use them. They just won't let you move forward onto these sort of first year classes here until you have these prerequisites. So you do have to have the prerequisite for a course first. And the reason these prerequisites exist is because they're going to be talking about some more advanced university level material in these courses. They expect that you know the stuff that was covered over here. If you don't, you're really going to struggle and you won't be able to do well in these classes. And we've run the stats, we've checked, we've put students in without them before. It does not go well. You are expected to know the material here. You need to understand how the formulas work before you go into these courses. So it's really important that you have the prerequisite before you can register in one of these courses. So check those. And again, when I go into the system and show you how to register, I'll show you where to find those prerequisites so you can see them for yourself when you're registering. But for now, know that these are the prerequisites. Chemistry 104, biology 104, those are natural sciences. So they usually have a lab component attached to them. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit, but those would count as science electives. Computer science 110 is actually required for all science programs. Oddly enough, I actually did my degrees in arts, so I have a philosophy and a psychology degree, and I sit in front of a computer all day. So we use computers for everything. So even if you're not a computer science major, you will need CS 110, which is an introductory coding class. They assume you don't have any experience with computers. What I want to point out here is that the prerequisite for computer science 110 is, again, that pre-calc 30 or math 102. So it's actually a math prerequisite. Now we do offer a course, CS 100. That is not the prerequisite for CS 110. So don't make assumptions about what the prerequisites are. You want to make sure that you check them because they might even be in a different stream entirely. But CS 110, again, is required for all science programs. If you're a computer science major, this is your first computer science course, and you do need a 65% in order to move forward. So for my computer science majors, this course is going to be one of your top priority courses, but it also requires the math to move forward. All right, moving on to economics. So economics is, we do offer a Bachelor of Science in Economics, which is why you see this course here. So if you're interested in that subject area, you would start at Econ 100. For the rest of you, economics is typically not a required course for science programs, but because the Department of Economics is housed in the Faculty of Arts, if you decide you want to take some economics courses, they actually count as arts electives. And the reason I showcase them here is because they have a slightly different prerequisite structure. So students can take Econ 100. It does not have a prerequisite. Anybody can take this course. Students would normally start with Econ 100 and then take Economics 201 and 202, so microeconomics and macroeconomics. Now, what's interesting here is that Econ 201 and 202 are 200 level courses. You don't necessarily have to take Econ 100 before you can take these courses. One of the prereqs for Econ 201 and 202 are simply 15 credit hours. So if you have 5 other university level courses, you can jump right into these ones and skip this one. If you do that, again, you're going to be doing more reading because they're going to sort of assume that you know this information. So again, watch out for those funny little prerequisite structures because they can differ depending on the subject area. For those of you who are looking for an interesting elective in areas of finance or how global finance works, Econ might be a good option for you. Geology 102 is a really nice, neat, and tidy science elective, or if you're interested in geosciences, this would be your first year course. So Geology 102, again, does not have any prerequisites. It does have a lab component. So for those of you who are requiring a natural science, that's science courses that have a lab component belonging to biology, chemistry, geology counts in there as well. So feel free to take Geology 102. It meets a natural science elective, or if you're interested in geosciences, or geology, geography, the oil industry, any of that, engineering, Geology 102 is a really good choice for your first year course. Okay, I'm going to touch on math, and I'm going to go into more detail on math on the next slide, but just really quickly, I'll let you know sort of what's expected. Science relies on mathematics. We use it in everything. Every science program is going to have a calculus requirement of some description. Now, typically speaking, students who are admitted to the Faculty of Science are required to have some pre-calculus. So you would go, if you're interested in a math program, for example, you would go directly from pre-calc 30 into math 110. So our calculus requirements, generally speaking, include math 110 and math 111. So calculus 1, calculus 2. And if you have your pre-calculus 30 with a 75% or higher, or you took calculus 30 in grade 12, which hopefully most of you did, you can go directly into math 110, which is our first calculus class. Now here's the thing about math courses. I know some students will put these off. I urge you not to do that. And the reason I say that, one is this is a prerequisite for a lot of other courses. Two, if you're not using these skills, you will lose them. I took calculus in high school. I think it's been about 10 years since I used it. If I jumped into this class right now, I'd probably do very poorly. simply because the formulas and stuff go away. If you're not using them, you lose it. So it's good to take these courses early in your program, and then you can build on them. So Math 110 followed by Math 111 are the typical calculus courses that are required. In some cases, not all, but biology is a good example of this, you might have the option of taking Math 103 followed by Math 112. So that's an applied calculus route, in which case you can do either Math 110 and 111 or Math 103 and Math 112. Math 103 requires Pre-Calc 30 with a 65 or completion of Math 102. So again, these are the calculus courses. You will need at least 2. Which one, depending on your program. Now, if you're thinking you might move to another institution in the future, so I know sometimes we have students who come here for first or second year and then they move to the university. That's fine, you can totally do that. We know for sure that Math 110 and Math 111 do transfer. So those courses would come with you as your first year calculus classes. We don't know about Math 103 and Math 112, how well those transfer. Different institutions will look at them differently. So if you were not sure, Math 110 followed by 111 is a safe bet. So those are our calculus courses. And again, they have their own prerequisites here. If you didn't meet these requirements in your Pre-Calc 30 in your grade 12 year, you can start by taking Math 102. And as Kayla mentioned, Math 102 is actually available as part of that bridging program. Alternatively, Math 102 is offered every semester. So if you want to take Math 102 before jumping into calculus, even if you did take Pre-Calc 30 and you did fairly well, but you're just not confident that you're prepared for Math 110, Math 102 is an excellent bridging course. It was actually designed to go from the foundations of Math 30 to bridge that calculus gap. So if you're not sure, starting with Math 102 is probably a good place. And then take your Math 110 and 111. And I'll talk more about that math sequence in a minute. Another math course that is often required in the Faculty of Science is Math 122. This is a different stream of math altogether. So this is your calculus, and Math 122 is your linear algebra. So it's actually a separate kind of math altogether. So even though the prerequisites are similar, this actually branches off into a different stream. One thing to note here is, don't get hung up on the numbers. Anything that's 100 level is designed as an intro level course. It's a 100 level course. It's designed for first year students typically, but you might take a 100 level course in your first year. You might take a 100 level course in your fourth year. It just means that this is generally where you start. What I want you to be careful of is 100 means it's a broad-based course. It gives you a foundational material. It gives you the lay of the land about this deep. So you're just getting an overview of the subject area. As you go through your courses, so first year, 100 level courses typically. Second year, 200 level courses, so like your econ ones here. Third year will be 300, and fourth year will be 400, and so on. That doesn't mean they get harder. It means they get more narrow in focus and deeper into the subject matter. So what I find with 100 level courses, they're very broad. You're just sort of skimming the surface of a lot of these. And as you move up, they're not getting harder, they're just getting more narrow. The important thing to note is that 111 is not less than 112, okay? These numbers don't necessarily go in any kind of order. This last bit here is kind of randomly assigned depending on what's available. So as long as you pay attention to the 100 level, that'll tell you it's a first year course. Beyond that, don't get too hung up on these numbers. They just designate a course. They don't mean anything in terms of order of taking a course. So Math 122 is not after 111, for example. You can take Math 110 and Math 122 at the same time, so long as you have these prerequisites. Hopefully that made sense. All right, moving on to physics. Now there's 2 different streams for physics, so this one's actually a little bit interesting. Most students are required to take some physics courses, or at the very least a natural science, and physics does meet that requirement. Typically students will choose to take Physics 109, followed by Physics 119. So this is your general physics 1, general physics 2. It's algebra based, and therefore, so long as you have your Pre-Calc 30 or Math 102, you can go directly into Physics 109 and you'll meet the requirement. Notice Physics 30 is not required here. You don't need to have taken physics before you take Physics 109. Alternately, if you're interested in physics as a major, or if you're interested in optometry or something that requires a lot of work with lenses, reflection, those kinds of things, you might choose to take Physics 111, followed by Physics 112. So this is a calculus-based stream. So again, it's 109 followed by 119, or 111 followed by 112. For physics majors, you would do the 111 followed by 112 stream. As calculus-based physics is a little bit more interesting in my view, but a little bit more math intensive. So again, the prerequisites are different depending on which courses you plan to take. Then there's psychology 101 and 102. This was, again, structured a little bit differently. Psychology, we do offer the BSc in psychology. And for those of you who are interested in being psychologists, schedule an appointment with me at your earliest convenience so we can discuss what that actually looks like. But for those of you who are interested in psychology, we used to have one psych course for first year. It was Psych 100. And it was way too much material to cover in one course. And so we've divided it into two. So for psych, we have Psych 101 and Psych 102. And they are offered every semester. And you can take one in the first semester and one in the second semester, and one of them is not a prerequisite for the other. So you could even take both of them at the same time if you want. Now, if you're not a psych major, I don't recommend doing that, but you could take 102 in the first semester, 101 in the second semester, however you'd like. Psych is also offered through the Faculty of Arts, just like economics is. So if you're not a psych major, psychology actually counts for an arts elective. So for those of you who are interested in psychology or how people work, Psych 101 and 102 might interest you. They can make some awesome electives, or if you're interested in that area as a major, it's available here to you. Psych 101 is sort of an artsy psych, history, theory, that kind of thing. Psych 102 is more scientific science, brain and behavior, neurochemicals, that kind of thing. All right, moving on to statistics. Now, statistics is the mathematics of science. We use statistics for everything. Again, I mentioned I was an art student, philosophy and psychology. For my psych degree, we use statistics for everything. So you will have to have some foundation in stats, and there is a stats class required for every science program. It also has two streams, similar to physics. So you can either take Stats 100 followed by Stats 200, so two courses. And depending on your program, it might require Stats 100 or 200, or you can take Stats 160. So Stats 100 and 200 are applied statistics. So it's how we use statistics to measure things in most other disciplines. If you enjoy math, Stat 160 is a pure statistics. So if you're interested in a mathematical discipline, Stat 160 is probably a better fit. Now, the nice thing about statistics is that, let's say you start with a biology program, you take Stat 100 and 200, and then later you decide, no, I want to switch to computer science. Computer science requires Stat 160. I can always replace Stat 160 with 200, or vice versa. If you want to take Stat 160 and apply it to a 200 requirement, I can do that. That's no problem. So these ones are a little bit interchangeable. The thing you need to know is you take one stream or the other, not both. So either Stat 100 followed by 200 or Stat 160 on its own. And again, you'll notice the prerequisites for each stream are slightly different. And then last but not least, of course, we have our English 100 and 110. Now, I did mention these are required for pretty much every student at the University of Regina. You don't have to take these things your first year, but I would recommend it. And the reason I do is because these are your writing courses. So English 100 focuses on grammar, punctuation. It's not that different from grade 12 English, to be perfectly honest, but they also talk about citing your sources and writing papers. And you'll be doing a lot of that in these courses, and that can help you in your other courses. So it is a good idea to try to get English 100 and 110 in early in your program, because they can help you in your other courses moving down the road. That being said, if you can't get into your first semester because the courses are full already or it just doesn't work in your schedule, that's fine. You can take it next semester, not the end of the world. Okay, so I've touched on just a little bit of each of these subject areas. We will look at different courses that are available when I go to the Visual Schedule Builder, but just so you have a basic idea of the different ways these things might be put together. And different courses that might be recommended. This is a good place to start. And this makes up pretty much the bulk of the science core requirements. So depending on your program, those will vary a little bit, but most of them should be in here. And as you can see, just skimming the prerequisite list, it's your math that you need to move forward. Now, also when you're planning to pick your courses, just a few quick notes. For those of you that are qualifying students, and I'll show you where to find that in a minute, whether you're a qualifying student or not, but it should have been on your admissions letter. Qualifying students are those students who applied to science and were either, their average was just a little bit low, or they were missing a course. So for example, some of you might have been admitted without having taken Pre-Calc 30. And in that case, it is your responsibility to make sure that you take any missing courses within your first 45 credit hours. So within your first year and a half, you have to get that course out of the way. So if you have any qualifying courses or courses that you need to take to meet a qualifying requirement, you absolutely want to take that course sooner rather than later. So try to put that high on your priority list. And then when we were looking at your program, you noticed I showed you the top half part of the major and the bottom half. The top half is usually bigger than the bottom half. You want to make sure, if possible, to get 2 to 3 courses in your major for every 1 or 2 electives. Now, you can, and I have seen students do this a lot, take a bunch of electives in their first semester. And if you're not sure what you want to major in, this is a perfectly viable way of taking a bunch of courses and see what you like. That is okay. You don't want to do that a lot, because what ends up happening is we call it front loading your electives. So if you take all your electives at the front end, you end up in your fourth year having to take all 400 level courses, which can be a bit of a heavy load. If you spread out your electives, you can mix it up a little bit. You can balance your upper level courses with some lower level courses in a different subject area, just to mix it up and make your life a little bit easier. So that's what I recommend. If you can take 2 or 3 courses from the top half, and that includes your science core and courses in your major, 2 or 3 of those for every 1 or 2 electives, you'll have a nice balance and be able to go through rather smoothly. Now, it doesn't always work out that way. We're limited by course availability, but just as a guideline, this can be helpful to determine which courses I should prioritize over others. Now, for those of you who are looking at electives and you're going, okay, well, what is a La Cité or arts or fine arts class or media art performance class? If you look in your student handbook, I believe it's page 57 to page 58, I actually have a list of all of the course codes that fit into those different areas. But essentially what it means is an arts elective is anything offered by the Faculty of Arts. So that includes econ, psychology, sociology, anthropology, all of those. Those are all arts courses. Any of those will meet an arts elective requirement. So this is where you can really customize your program and take courses that are of interest to you. The electives are there as sort of breadth requirements, is a good way of thinking about them. When we take elective course students, we have different ways to think about problems. And when you can mix your interests and bring in ideas from one discipline into another, that's where the real creativity happens. So don't think of your electives as extra. These are really good ways to customize your program to be what you want them to be and to be able to tackle your problems in creative ways. Now, when you're planning your course list, you want to think first about how many courses you want to take, and then you want to make a list of prioritized courses. So let's say you were planning on taking a full course load of 5 courses. What I would suggest is that you make a list of 7 or 8 courses that you'd like to take, and then order them in priority order. So this one, absolutely, I want to get as soon as possible. So if I'm a CS major, CS 110 is going to be at the top of my list. If I'm a Chem major, Chem 104 is going to be the top of my list, because those are courses that I really need to be able to move forward in my major. If I don't have the math requirement, math is going to be at the top of your list. So prioritize your courses and then make a list of slightly more courses than you'll need. And again, we can use this as sort of a jumping off point, but the place you really want to check is the program outline that's listed in the calendar that I showed you earlier. Okay, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the math sequence, because in science, as I pointed out, the math prerequisites are really important. And if you don't have the math, you're going to get stuck right at the front end. And the last thing in the world we want to do is hold you back from moving forward. So it's really important that you're getting at least the minimum math that is required for the Faculty of Science. Now, most of you meet our standard admission requirements, which means you have pre-calc 30 at least. Now, if you have pre-calc 30 with a grade above 75, you're in a good position. Chances are you can start with all those first year courses I was just talking about. You meet the prerequisites for those courses. If you took pre-calc 30 and you got less than a 75, or given the current circumstance, if you weren't really confident that you understand that material and you're a little bit concerned about that, I would take Math 102. Math 102 is a bridging course. Like I said, it prepares you really well to take your Math 110 and 103, and it will meet the prerequisites for all of these core science courses. So if you're not sure, that Math 102 is a really good place to start in math, and it is available every semester. So if you're on the fence about your calculus, that's where I would start. Now, for those of you who took Calc 30 in grade 12 and you did fine and you're confident, you can start here. If not, take that Math 102 to be safe. Now, keep in mind, once you move forward, once you've taken these courses and you've passed them, we can't go backwards. So if you're not sure, take this now. All right. Now, if for whatever reason you didn't do well in pre-calc, even though you passed the course, but you're not confident, or you didn't take pre-calc at all. So sometimes we will admit students, I get some international students where calculus isn't really offered at the university level. We will admit them, assuming they meet all the other requirements. For example, I have a lot of students from India. The high school system there, if students choose to focus on biology and chemistry, they stop offering math at grade 10. Well, that's awesome, but we expect you to have at least 2 more years worth of math before you're ready for this. So in those cases, if you're admitted as a qualifying student with a grade 10 math level, you actually need to start with these courses here. AMath 091, they've been renamed to PMath 091. So please just note, these are the same course. It's just that we're in the middle of that changeover. So if you see AMath or PMath, they're the same thing. If you have that, like AMath 091 is basically equivalent to your pre-calc 20. So if you have grade 12 math, or grade 10 math rather, sorry, you would start at AMath, AMath 091, followed by AMath 092, which is roughly equivalent to Foundations of Math 30 or a low-level pre-calc 30. So if you have your grade 10 math, start with AMath 091 and 092. Now, the tricky thing with these ones is you see that they're 0 level, 100, they're 0. Those are high school equivalent courses. So these courses cannot be used in your university program. Now, they do meet the requirements for the prerequisites, so you will need them to move forward or even to get into Math 102 in some cases. And they will be counted in your credit hours towards full-time credit. So if you need to meet a scholarship or a study permit requirement or anything like that, they will count, but we can't use them towards the 40 courses that are required for your program. So just be aware of that. That's why they're sort of phased out. Notice where your Stat 100 starts in terms of the prereq sequence. So again, if you don't have this pre-calc 30 at all, but you do have your foundations, so you can go into Math 102. If you don't even have your pre-calc 20, this is where you start. If you have your 20 but not 30 at all, then you would start at AMath 092. So figure out where you're at on this math sequence. Most of you should be starting here, which is good. If you're not confident in math, I would definitely take that Math 102. And then once you have Math 102 or pre-calculus 75 or higher or calculus, you will meet the requirements to register in all of these courses. So for those of you who don't have this, Math 102 through the Summer Bridge program might be a nice option for you. If not, Math 102 is available in the fall. You could take it alongside English 100 and say biology and a couple of electives and not be far behind. These courses are usually offered every semester with the exception of Chem 104. Okay, so hopefully that cleared up the math sequence. If you have any questions about this, please ask, because this is really important that you're starting in the right place. Hopefully this cleared that up for you a little bit. Okay, now, how do I plan my schedule? So okay, I've got my list of courses, I know how many I want to take, now what? We're going to move on to UR Self-Service and the Visual Schedule Builder. So I'm going to flip over and show you some of the tools that we will be using, all available through the website. So feel free to follow along as we go, and I'll sort of show you where you can find all of these things. So now I'm going to start by showing you UR Self-Service. So this is your personal account on the University of Regina website. So if you go to UR Self-Service, it will bring you to this website, and it's going to ask you for your user ID, which is your student ID. I'm just going to log myself in here. So your student ID is your user ID, and then the first time you log in, it's going to be your birth date, day, month, year, okay, just like your email was. And then the first time you log in, it's going to ask you for a PIN number. And I don't have mine saved. Give me 1 second. I think that's it. I'm using a different browser than I usually do, so I apologize for that. Let me do it. There we go. Okay. So this is what UR Self-Service looks like. And I'm going to go through this in a little bit of detail just so you guys sort of know where to find everything. But I do encourage you to explore this when you have a little bit of time. And by the time we're done this, you'll know where to go to register. So bear with me. I know this, again, it seems like a bit of a detour, but it is all related. So on this first homepage, once you get past setting up your PIN and answering your security questions and blah, 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 you'll get to this sort of homepage. You won't have to worry about faculty and staff. You don't work here. Personal information. This is where we keep track of your current phone number, other email addresses, social insurance numbers, those kinds of things. Please keep this information up to date. When students move, they don't tell us. If we do send something in the mail, like say, I don't know, your graduation parchment, we need to know where you're actually living. So make sure that you keep this information up to date because students do tend to move around. And it's really easy. You just pop in here, update the form, and hit save. This area is secure, so it's under your own password and username, so should be fine. Otherwise, we're going to go into student services. This is where we spend most of our time, and I will go into each of these in turn. So student records is the first thing we're going to go into. Now, this student information here tells us which program you're in. So it tells us that you're in the Faculty of Science. If you're not sure if you're a qualifying student, this is where you can check. So if you logged in there, it'll tell you whether you're admitted as fully qualified or qualifying, and it'll tell us what program you're in. Now, if you decide in the future that you want to change this program, we have to do that at the back end. So if you want to change your program to a different program in science, let's say your chemistry and you decide, oh, I changed my mind, I want to do physics. Okay, come let us know. We can make that change for you. That's no problem. We can just switch you over lickety-split. If you are looking at a program in a different faculty, well, then we're looking at a transfer process, and it's probably a good idea to come chat with us and we'll explain how that works and what you need to make sure you meet all admission requirements to your new faculty, and there's a form you need to fill out, etc. So this information will give you sort of an up-to-date, you know, this is where I'm at, and the program that I'm currently working on, which calendar applies to me, those kinds of things, and we have to change that information at the back end. So if you want to make a change or add a minor or a concentration or anything like that, come let us know. We will update that information in our system for you, and then you can see the changes here. Holds. So view holds. Holds can be placed on your account for a number of reasons. Now, sometimes they prevent registration, sometimes they prevent access to transcript or final grades. Basically, it is a tracking system. There are over 15,000 students at the University of Regina, and we use holds to track you down and keep track of things and make you come to us in case we need something. So a good example of this is if you're a qualifying student, one of your requirements is that you have to meet with an academic advisor within your first semester, at least one time. So we might place an academic advising hold on your account, which means that hold will be there in your way, preventing registration until you come meet with us. And that's just our way of making sure that that happens, because we have, just in science, we have 1,800 students. And so tracking all of you can be a bit of a challenge. So holds are there to do that. Other holds that might be placed on your account, if the admissions office is waiting for documents, so let's say your final transcript hasn't arrived, they might put a hold on there for that. Financial services might put a hold on if they're waiting for tuition or something like that. What I suggest to you is about a week before registration, log in, check to see if you have any holds. If somebody wants something, go find out what they want, handle it, they'll remove the hold, and then once your time ticket comes up, you'll be in a position to register without any barriers or problems. All right, final grade. So once your classes are completed, you'll write your final exams. Professors have about 2 weeks after you write your final exam to get everything marked and submit those grades. Now, I know that sounds like a long time, but please keep in mind, some of these classes have 400 students in them. Professors need time to mark things. So about 2 weeks after your final exams are written, you can expect to start seeing your final grades pop up here. Now, keep in mind, the advising office does have access to this information. We can see your final grades. We cannot see your grades throughout the semester. So if you have a bunch of assignments that you've handed in, we don't know how you're doing. So if you're struggling, come see us sooner rather than later. We're more than happy to help you. Once your final grades are posted, well, then you'll be able to see them here. You should be able to map out how you did on your final exam. If you're really surprised or alarmed by that final grade, the first person you want to talk to is your professor. They should be able to explain exactly where that grade came from. It will be calculated based on the information you're given on your course syllabus. So you should be able to have a pretty good idea of what your final grade is going to be going into the final, but you will see your final grades here, and then they will stay there. So if you want to check, you know, oh, how did I do on that course that's going to serve as a prerequisite, you can always go back and check if you need them later. Current registration and list of courses, this is your unofficial transcript. So anytime that you want to see your full student record, it's right here. This is also a good place to check your UGPA every semester. It will be published there, how we're calculating your UGPA, and you can see it there. So there should be no surprises. If you drop below 60, academic probation is coming your way. If you're above 60, you're doing okay. If you're above 65, then you're in a position to graduate. If you're getting 85s and above, you're doing awesome. So check that, just make sure you have a general idea of where you're sitting. If you're in this 70s range, you're doing okay. You're in a position to graduate, so that's good. Drop below 65, come see us. Academic history is kind of the same thing. It's just a different format. So there's a lot of redundancies in here. View account or make a payment. Now this one, your tuition and fees are going to be due first day of classes, and they'll be due according to the fee schedules published on the website. Now, we are not going to be sending you an invoice, not even to your email. You're actually expected to log in here and check. And that's fine. You can log in here and check, and you can make a payment online through this system here. We do have a secure bank system set up, or you can go in person to financial services and they can help you at the window there. Please do not click on any emails that are sent to you presumably from financial services. They are not going to send you an email and say, hey, we have a new system, click here to log in. Don't do that. That's not us. That has happened in the past where some scammers got a hold of some students' tuition by pretending to be us. Always log in through UR self-service so that you know that you're safe and it is a secure system. Request official transcript. So at some point in the future, you're probably going to need a copy of your transcripts. Now, please note on your parchment and stuff like that, when you tell people you graduated with a BSc, you know, they're going to check that. Your transcript will confirm that you've graduated, but for the most part, the only people who are going to be asking for your grades or your transcript are other institutions. So if you apply to a graduate program in the future, say a master's or PhD, or if you transfer institutions, I request an official transcript. So in that case, you can request it here, and it will be sent to you from the registrar's office, and you can view the status of that as you go, excuse me. And then this is kind of a one-off. We did some grading options for students, so that won't apply to you. Okay, so that's our student records screen. Academic advising and program planning, this will give you the contact information for the advising office, so you can always find it here if you need it. It also has a program called, I believe it's advising audit, where you can actually compare what you have taken to the program requirements. Now, that is live and it does work for the most part. Just know that it's a little bit still in the testing phase. We're still working out some bugs. It's not 100% accurate. So if we give you a program outline from the advisors and you see something different on the audit, one, let us know so we can fix it. Two, the one we gave you is probably correct. The system is still buggy. There's still a lot of little nitpicky things that we're working out. So if you have any questions about that, don't be scared to ask us, but you can play around there. You know, what would it look like if I did a kin degree? Oh, let's pop that in and see what it looks like. Just so you have an idea before you, if you're looking at other programs or those kinds of things, that can be a nice way to do it. Registration, I'm going to come back to in just a minute. You guys aren't graduate students, don't worry about that. Tax forms. You guys are all adults now. As Kayla mentioned, you're going to have to do taxes. Yay, you. Tuition is tax deductible, as are your textbooks. Your tax forms will be available in February for next year. So make sure that you print these off and count them in your or work with them, your parents. We'll need to see these. In February, those will be available. And access and purchase your textbook. So once you are registered for courses, your textbook list will appear about a month before classes begin. You can find your textbook list right here, and this connects you to the bookstore on campus. And it will give you the list of textbooks that you need and some options for purchasing them. Now, textbooks can be expensive. I think my first semester I spent $700 on textbooks. Now I'm down to about $2 and I'm taking one class. So be mindful that your textbooks are an added expense. Some students will get their textbooks from other places. So the bookstore should have everything that you need. Professors usually order enough for their students. You can access your textbook through the bookstore. Right now the bookstore is running 100% completely online. So it's really easy. It works just like ordering from Amazon. Pretty straightforward. You can also get your textbooks from other sources. The bookstore does link to some alternate sources, or you can take a look on, say, Garage Sale, or the Student Union usually has a used book sale where students will sell their old textbooks to other students. That can be a much cheaper way to get your textbooks. May or may not be available. I usually check those first and then go to the bookstore and get my full price books there. I didn't tell you that. That could be a really good way to save a little bit of money on your textbooks. The important thing to remember, though, is that we're in science. Textbooks get updated on a regular basis. So like when I was doing a philosophy degree, like Plato has not changed in 3,000 years. I can probably get Project Gutenberg and get a version of Plato that will suffice. For science, that is not going to be the case. Those textbooks are going to be updated on a regular basis as new scientific information is published. So you want to make sure that you get the right version for your class. Now, sometimes when you get your course syllabus, you see like you need one chapter for that textbook. Oftentimes these textbooks are available at the library. And if you just need one chapter, you can photocopy that chapter under open licensing. So that wouldn't be a violation. That would be okay. So if you just need one chapter, I would just get it from the library. Thanks $700 for the textbooks, unless you think it'll be a good reference material. And trust me, I still have some of my second year psych textbooks that I refer to. So you might find them to be good references. But there are lots of ways to get your textbooks. Make sure you have them in advance of your class. You will be responsible for any assigned readings, whether or not you cover that material in class. It's all examinable material. So make sure you're doing your readings, preferably before class, so that you're prepared. But you can get your textbooks here. Okay. Registration. All right, we have to tell the system what semester we're looking at. So if we go to select term, remember we can register for the summer and the fall term starting at the same time. We can also register for non-credit courses at the same time. So non-credit courses are courses that do not count towards your program. A good example of this, a couple of years ago, I was going to go visit Montreal. I wanted to take a non-credit French course, which is to say I did not want it on my transcripts. Language is not my forte. So I took a non-credit French class just so that I could learn some French and it wouldn't be affecting my academic record at all. So I would go through the non-credit side. In your case, you guys want to make sure that you're on the credit side. And in this case, we're going to be looking at fall 2020. So I'm just going to tell the system that's the semester I'm looking at. So the information that I get from this point forward will be for fall 2020. If you ever get stuck, you can always go check select term and change that. All right. Check your registration status. So again, this is going to be in relation to the fall 2020 semester. This is where you can find your time tickets. If you log in there, you'll be able to see, okay, my time ticket is this date. That's the date I'm eligible to register. It'll tell you if you have any holds on your account. You'll have to go to the view hold screen to see which holds those actually are. But the holds here will tell you if you have any. It'll update you on your academic standing. There should be no surprises there. If you go into poor academic standing, you will get an email from our office. And any special permissions will be located here. So first thing you want to do when you go to register, check your registration status, make sure there's nothing getting in your way. If there is, deal with it, then come back to this. And if you're not sure what the issue is, feel free to contact us. A lot of these are accounted for in your new student handbooks. That's usually a good place to find first. And then we can search for classes. Now there's two different ways to search for classes. One is to go through search for classes. This is our sort of what I call the old-fashioned way. It will give us lists of courses that are being offered in the semester. Now I mentioned earlier that the courses that are offered are not necessarily offered every semester. So how do you know what's being offered? And well, a lot of it is just going back and looking and seeing what was offered before. Sometimes on the department websites, they will have charts or lists of courses that are typically offered in the fall or the winter. But when you're looking for courses, or if you're like, I don't know what I can take, what's even available, there are a couple of different places to check. The first one that I would check is if you go to the academic calendars and schedules, the place you can check is the course catalog. So that's this bottom one here. In the course catalog, again, it's offered in PDF. If you go to 2021, this opens up basically a list of all of the courses that the University of Regina offers ever. So this is every course that is on the books. And they're organized according to course code. So that's this sort of 4-digit letter and then number. So this is our course code. So if you want to know, if you're reading through your program and you're like, well, what is Biology 100 anyway? You can actually look for the course catalog and go down to the B's. It's organized alphabetically. Let's see here. The F's are a little bit slow, but eventually you'll find it. There we go, Biology 100. Oh, there's Biology 100. Okay, so if I look at Biology 100, I'm looking at the course catalog entry. I can see here's Biology 100. This is the title of the class, From Cells to Organize, or is it Organisms, Biology 1. Over here, I can see that there's 3 credit hours for this course. And after the dash, I see 1.5. That means there's 1.5 credits for lab. So what that means is that there's a 3 credit hour course, so it's 3 hours a week, lecture time. And 1.5 lab means there's a lab every other week, typically, is what that means. If you see 3 there, there's a lab every week. So this one has a lab component. If you see a 0 here, like Biology 110 has a 3 credit hour lecture and 0 lab hours. There's no lab attached to that course. So that's what that means. And then you can actually read a description of the course. And it will tell you what the course is about. So if you don't know what your program is about, going through looking up your course codes, you can actually see all the different kinds of things that you're going to be learning in your program. And then you'll find that the prerequisites are listed here. So this is where you can find the prerequisite for course. So prerequisite for Biology 100, Biology 30 and Chem 30 are strongly recommended. Recommended, again, is not required, so you could take this course. But if you have those courses, you're going to have an easier time with it. You also want to pay attention to any notes. Notes are important. So I mentioned earlier that you could do 2 different calculus streams. For example, you would do Math 110 and 111 or Math 103 and 112. The only way for you to know that, besides me telling you, is by reading the note that says you can't get credit for both of these, pick one. Okay, here's an example of this. So for Biology 100, the note says this course is designed for biology majors, pre-professional students, secondary education science students, that's not you, and those wanting 2 semesters of biology. Students seeking a single semester introductory course, so for example, the art student who wants a science elective, they would be advised to take Biology 140 or 150. And if I scroll down, oh look, there's Biology 140 and 150. So you wouldn't know that at all unless you read these notes. So you need to make sure that you're reading through the descriptions before you register for a class, including the prerequisites and the notes. And when we go to the visual schedule builder, I'll show you a really easy place to find this. But if you just want to look through and look up your courses, the course catalog can be a really nice place to do that. I also get a lot of students asking me, well, what electives can I take? The truth is you can take whatever electives as long as they're not restricted or there's no prerequisite for them or you have the prerequisite for them, you can take what you want. So one thing I did when I was a brand new student, and I don't necessarily recommend that you do this, but you could if you wanted to, is I actually looked through this whole course catalog and read course descriptions. And I'd read through the 100 levels. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, this might be an area I want to take some electives in. But then if I get to, you know, some course codes, like what do we got here? Business. I read through the business ones. I'm like, not really my thing. Well, then I won't take any business courses, and it's fine. So I actually went through this with a highlighter. I sat in front of the TV one night watching Doctor Who in a highlighter and highlighted the courses that I was interested in, crossing out the ones that I wasn't. By the time I was done, I had a really nice list. I knew what my program was going to look like. I had some courses picked out for electives, and they're all listed here. Now, again, these courses are on the books to be offered at some point. They're not necessarily offered every semester. So this is really good to find out, you know, what those courses are about, but not necessarily if they're available. To find out if courses are available, what we want to use is the visual schedule builder. So I'm going to go into here. Now make note that the visual schedule builder is a useful tool for planning our course schedule. It is not a good tool for registering. It does not register you for courses. So we're going to use it to plan our schedule, and then I will show you how to register. There is a really good instructional video. So I'm going to show you quick and dirty today. When you have time, or if you get stuck, watch this instructional video. It's very good. It will show you little bits that I miss. Okay, so I'm going to open Visual Schedule Builder. I'll close some of these so that we can. There we go. Okay, Visual Schedule Builder. So I'm going to X out of those 2 courses I'm registered in. All right, so this is what the Visual Schedule Builder looks like when you first log into it. We need to tell it right now we can register for summer and fall. Most of you will be admitted for the fall, so the fall will be the first semester that you can register. So you select fall 2020. That will mean the results that we get are for the fall semester. Notice we can't look ahead to next winter. Those courses have not been scheduled yet. They're actually in the process of being scheduled. So we're only registering for 1 semester right now, which is the fall 2020 semester. You want to go into these here where it says include institutions. First thing you want to do is select the institutions you're willing to take courses from. Now, as U of R students, you're welcome to take courses through our affiliate colleges. Kayla mentioned them a little bit earlier, Luther, Campion, FNU. Sometimes courses are restricted to students that are registered through the affiliate colleges. A lot of the time they're not. The course content is the same. So their course codes are the exact same as our course codes. You are more than welcome to take courses through Luther, Campion, or FNU. I myself was registered as a Luther student. I took a lot of courses through Campion and Luther. They were a bit smaller in size, which I really loved, but they are on campus, so you can walk there in 5 minutes. So, you know, don't shy away to courses that are offered through there. First Nations University has some of our best labs on campus. So if you see a course offered through FNU, state-of-the-art labs, they're amazing. So don't shy away from taking courses here. Just be aware that some sections might be restricted. So I'm going to leave all of those checked on. If you're not interested in taking courses through there, you can just turn those check marks off and it won't give you those in the list. Then we're going to look at locations. Now, locations, it seems a little funny to have to go in here, but as Kayla mentioned, we offer courses through the U of R all over Saskatchewan, as you can see. And if you're on campus in Regina looking at taking a course, the last thing in the world you want is to have to drive to Swift Current on a regular basis to take a course that's 3 hours away. So we don't want to be taking courses at remote locations for now. So the easiest way to maybe do that is to select none and then select on campus. Now, on the other hand, if you're a student that's located in La Ronge and you want to take your first year courses just at courses that are offered at the college, you might want to turn everything else off and just turn La Ronge on, and that's okay too. So just make sure that you do this according to what's appropriate for you. I like to put it just to on campus, and that will give me all of the courses that are available within walking distance on campus in Regina, which will be most of you. Okay, so I'll close that. Next, we have specialized instructional methods. Now, right now, for the summer semester, all of our courses are being offered online. For the fall semester, we don't know yet what the plan is. In the meantime, we are scheduling classes for an on-campus reopening for the fall semester. So right now, everything you see here will be as though everything is business as usual in the fall. Once the university has announced whether we're opening for the fall or not, you will receive an update about that. Worst case scenario would be is the courses that are scheduled are moved to a web-based format, just like our summer courses have been. Hopefully that's not the case, but we just have to be a little bit adaptable. So what I would suggest when you're planning for your fall semester is plan to be on campus. And then if that doesn't happen and we have to move online, then we'll adapt that. But the course times and schedule will remain in effect. So even if you apply for an in-person class and it moves online, chances are the lecture is going to be at the same time. final exams, certainly. So if you want to just take web delivered courses, like let's say you're up in L'Orange, but you want to take online courses only, or you're in the middle of nowhere, Northern Saskatchewan, or like me, out of town, don't want to drive to the city every day, you could just select web delivered courses and it will limit you to the courses that are available online only. Classes offered in French. I can't speak French, so I would turn that off. I don't want classes that I can take in French because it will do me no good. I'm not going to do well there. Live stream classes are ones that are videoed out. Multiple teaching methods, video conference, etc. If you're open to whatever, just leave all of these on and you should be just fine. If you don't want to take online courses, if you're like, no, I definitely don't learn well online, I want to do in-person only, you can turn that one off. And then you'll just get the courses that are available live. I tend to leave all of these on just so that I get best selection and then narrow it down from there. So that's those sort of specialized ticks on and off. There's a couple more and they're over here on the right-hand side, which asks for schedules containing full classes or waitlist classes. Now, we can turn off classes that are full. You don't want to have to deal with full classes. If we're just looking for seats available, you can turn that off. It will still show courses that are full but have options to put yourself on the waitlist. Waitlists work as follows. If a course is full and there is a waitlist available, you can put on the waitlist. Then if a student drops the course, that seat will be saved for the first person on the waitlist for 24 hours. If a spot opens up, that person will be emailed. They have 24 hours to register for the course. If they don't, it goes away and it goes to the next person. So if you're trying to get into a course and it's full, but there's a wait list, my suggestion to you is to register in the wait list and choose an alternate course as an option. Then if your spot on the wait list is open, you can always drop the other course and register for the course you were waitlisted for. It gives you a backup plan in place, but especially if you're near the top of the wait list, your chances of getting in at this point are very good. If you're, number 30 on the wait list, not so good. There's a lot of movement right up until after that first week of classes. So don't be too discouraged by that. If it's a course you want to get in and there's a wait list seat, put yourself on that wait list. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute, but that might be an option. I personally, at this point, I can register fairly early. I hate dealing with wait lists myself. I actually turn both of those off. I just want to see what's available, but it depends on your situation. So know that those buttons are there if you want to do it. Okay, so now up until this point, we've gone over how many courses we want to take, and we should have a list of the courses we'd like to take if they're available. So let's say I'm a first-year science student and I want to take Biology 100, and I want to take Math 102, and I want to take English 100. I'm just pulling a few, you could do up to 5 or whatever. I'm going to start with these. It should give us a bit of an idea. Now, what happens is the courses have popped up and populated my visual schedule builder. There's 3 different columns. I'm going to touch on each of these briefly. Over here, we have information about the course. So if you click on Show More, it will open up a bigger box and give you a little bit more information. You're going to want to do this for all of your courses. Now, what I'm looking at here is Biology 100, which we looked up in the course catalog, Biology 100 from Cells to Organism. What I can see over here is that there are 17 different options for this course. There might be 1, there might be 60. It depends on the course. If it's a high demand course like Biology 100, there are several options available to us. And those options are going to appear over here. Right now, though, on this side, in this section of the page, I'm just looking at information for the course as a whole. Here is the individual combinations for the class and the lab. So you'll notice Biology 100, I mentioned earlier, has a lab attached to it. So Lecture 1 is the classroom. And Lecture 1 is usually going to have probably close to 300 students. And it might be broken up into different sections, and that's okay. So Lecture 1 is going to be a big classroom with a whole bunch of students. The professor's going to teach to the whole classroom. And then the labs, which have, lab dangerous stuff going on, they're going to be smaller. There's going to be about maybe 30 students in a lab. And so you'd have to register for the lecture and the lab at the same time. And there's all the different combinations of lectures and lab pointed here. Now, you can see some of these are full already. So I could either take the full classes off and it won't show those ones over here for me, or I can leave the full classes on and it will show them. This one's waitlistable, for example. So it'll give us an idea. There are some seats available. So these ones don't have anything next to them. There are still seats available in that course. So that's fine. If you want to take a look at specific sections, I like to leave it open at this stage just to see sort of what's being offered. Just below that, you'll see the description. This is the same description that we looked at in the course catalog. So here you can actually read about what the course is about. The prerequisites are listed right here. The notes are listed right here. So there's no excuse for not reading it. It's right there in the visual schedule builder. And underneath that is class remarks. Now, class remarks are important because this is where you'll see any restrictions or any notes that you need to know about that specific section of the course. So 17 sections for biology. Here's some information about this specific section. So lecture 1 has lab sections 90 to 96, 98, 99, all attached to it. So it's one big lecture. It's going to be offered at the same time, and it has different lab sections attached to it. These are the labs that are attached to it. Then there's things like this. So lecture L01 goes with lab section 097. It's for Luther English science students only. Now, please note, this is not you. This is for students who are interested in the Luther learning community. So they have an English science learning community, and this section is reserved for those students. So it will have about probably 20 seats in it, and it's reserved for those specific students only. So if you're not that student, this section is going to be restricted. You won't be able to register in it. So what I like to do is I look lecture L01. I look up here, oh, here's lecture L01. It's currently full anyway, but I can just turn that off and then that section will go away and it won't show up in my list of options. And that's really nice to narrow down our options. If we look over here, right now under generated results, this scenario with these 3 classes, there are actually, with that one turned off, with it turned on, there's 273 different combinations of those 3 classes and labs that will work. What I'm trying to do here is narrow it down a little bit. So if I turn that one off, oh, that brought me down to 241. So it excludes those options. I take a look a little bit further. SO1 is restricted to FNU students until August 15th. Now what that means is that if I tried to register in it now and I'm not an FNU student, it's not going to let me. After August 15th, if there are seats left, they're going to open it up to the rest of us. Right now though, I really want to get registered, so I'm going to turn section SO1 off. So I'll turn that one off. Notice SO2 also offered through FNU. S is FNU, L is Luther, C is Campion. SO2 is open, it's not restricted. So I would leave that one on, and then if the spot opens up, I can do it. So I've narrowed down my biology options a little bit. You can do that for each of these courses. English 100, notice English 100, everybody has to take it, right? There's 51 sections of English 100. There's so many of them. Some of them are restricted. So I would turn those ones off so that they're not appearing in my list. So again, CO2 is Campion students only. I'd go up here, find CO2, turn that one off, right? These ones with the little mouse next to them, those are online classes. I don't want online classes if I can avoid it. So I'm going to turn those ones off. That's a preference. SO4, SO2 restricted to FNU. So I'm going to turn those ones off, etc. Okay, so you can turn off the ones that you don't want. Let's say you're looking over here and you see a professor, you're like, oh, I don't like professor, turn that one off. What else is available? You can do that. Okay, you can narrow this down and sort of customize it to the way that you want it. Now, this is for this first left-hand side is for the course as a whole. So all the sections, this information applies to all of them. Over here, what it's going to show me is the particular sections that I'm looking at. So if I scroll through this generated results, right now I've got it now narrowed down a little bit. There's only 199 options. So I can just sort of scroll through here and it will move the classes around until it finds something that we like. Now, what I like to do here is actually take advantage of some of the functionality of Visual Schedule Builder. Let's say I work evenings or I really just don't like evening courses. I like to have my evenings to myself. Thank you very much. So what I can do is I can actually gray this out. And what that will do, it will still show me all of the options, but it will move all of the combinations that don't overlap with that over to the front. So let's say I don't really like Saturday classes and I really have trouble getting up in the morning. So I don't want anything before 9 o'clock. So I want all my classes to be Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Awesome. Maybe I can manage that. Maybe I can't. But if I gray it out, it's going to move all the best options to fit that to the front. So if I go right to the front, this is the best I can do. There's only about half an hour overlap, but that's not bad. And that's because the lecture is there. Remember, that's going to be one of those great big lectures. It's not going to move. It's going to be there. That's not too bad, actually. And then I can sort of scroll through at my leisure, and it's going to change the sections that I'm in. Okay? So as I'm scrolling through, it will change the schedule. This is when the class is being offered. Over here, it will change the actual information for that course. So I'm going to go right to the front. Let's start here. So I've picked 3 classes. Here's when these classes are scheduled, and here's the details for those particular sections that are being offered. So I'm going to read through here and show you where to find important information. So here I'm looking at the biology class. It's color coordinated. So blue, blue, blue. It makes it really nice and easy visual. The dates that this course runs for 2020 fall, September 2nd to December 22nd. Those match the dates that were on that schedule that I showed you earlier. This comes into play a lot in the summer semester because we offer shorter courses at different times throughout the summer. So you'll notice that a lot more if you're registering for the summer. You'll want to pay attention to these dates. For the fall, they're all going to be the same. And they're full term. So over here we have the name of the course code, the name of the course, and then we're going to have the schedule listed. In this case, the lecture's Tuesday, Thursday, from September 2nd to December 8th, 8:30 to 9:45, and that's what we see over here. The final exam date is also listed here. So the final exam for this course is December 22nd from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So notice final exams are 3 hours long. They can be worth up to 50% of your grade for the course. So final exams are a big deal. So it's really important when you're scheduling your classes that you pay attention to what those final exam dates are. Please note, these are scheduled 8 months in advance. Everybody is writing every final within a 3-week period. These are not going to move, okay? These are pretty much set in stone. The exception being, like I said, if you end up in a hospital or something, call us, we'll figure something out. But aside from that, you are expected to be in that final exam. So note, you cannot be in 2 places at the same time. Don't schedule a final exam at the same time. Check that before you register. 2, preferably, you don't want to be writing 2 exams on the same day. Now we have three exam sessions per day. There's one from 9 till noon, there's one from, I think, 2 till 5, and there's one from 7 till 10. I have written 2 exams on the same day. It was unavoidable for me in the morning, afternoon. No pressure. It sucks. If you can avoid that, try. Sometimes we can't, but if you can avoid it, I absolutely would try. And what's nice about the visual schedule builders, it gives you a little visible reference right here. So down here, we can see the final exams. If these are all in a row, those exams are all on the same day. So these ones are spread out a little bit. Notice the biology final is December 22nd. The math one is December 21st. So that's where they're next to each other here. And the English one is December 14th, so a little bit before that. So you can use this as a quick reference. Always double check your final exam dates and times before you begin, because you don't want to have 2 on the same day, certainly none at the same time. And if you can spread it out, all the better. Sometimes that's easier said than done, but in ideal worlds, different final exam every day. Okay, and then we're going to look at the actual section information. So in this case, what's happened here is there's this 15 and 12. This is probably the same lecture, but they've divided into 2 sections. So half the section, these 12 seats here, are restricted to FNU students. This section does not have that restriction. So these seats are available, or waitlist seats are available anyway. So if I were not an FNU student, I'd want to make sure I was on the non-restricted portion. This is an exclamation point because these ones are currently full. Let's say I don't want full or waitlist. I just want them to show me what's available. This is what comes up. So this one doesn't have the, well, this one is restricted actually, so I haven't turned that one off. Which one is this? SO1. SO1. Oh, I missed one. I can turn those off too. There we go. Okay, so now I have an available course. So this one has lecture 050 and lab 051. And it takes place at the University of Regina. And assuming we're in class, it'll be in classroom building 410. So the letter code gives you the name of the building. So in this case, classroom building. FN is FNU, right? RI is the RIC. You can get a campus map. I believe they sent you one with your materials before this session. So it's a good place to look. If you can do a tour of campus ahead of time, that's a good idea. So the building and the room number, 410, 4th floor. 1010 FNU has 4 numbers, but if it starts with 1, it's on the 1st floor, and so on. Find your way around if you can ahead of time. So that tells you where the course is. It tells you how many credit hours. Notice that lecture has 3 credit hours, labs have 0. So when you're calculating your full-time classes, lectures have 3 credit hours, labs have 0, but they are attached to the class and they are a required component. And if there is a professor assigned, it will tell you who the professor is. So this is Jean Hillebold. I hear really good things about her for an English professor. This one is Saporna Des. This one does not have a professor assigned yet. And that could mean that we're hiring a sessional. It could mean the department hasn't finished assigning classes or that we're not sure. So you can see the professors who are going to be listed here as well. Don't need attributes. Those won't apply to you. So you can just ignore those. If you see restriction here, that will apply, but otherwise you can just ignore this. So that gives me information about that particular lecture. That's a Saturday. I'm not too fussy about that, but if I switch it over, oh, look, there we go, there's a different one. It mostly fits my criteria, so that's pretty good. Different professors, so just change the section. Underneath the lecture and section number, you're going to see this 5-digit code. Now, when you're registering for classes, that code is called your CRN number, and it is unique to every section and every lab. So let's say you call our office, you say, I have a question about my English 100 class, and we're like, yeah, there's 51 of them. We have no idea which one you mean, okay? But if you give us this number, the 30144, we know that this is exactly lecture 001 for biology 100. And this is the number that you will need when you actually go to register. So as you're going through and picking your classes, this is the number you need to keep track of. So write these down somewhere. Now this one is biology 100. It's being taught by Harold Weger and Mark Brigham. This is an awesome combination, you guys. For those of you who are interested in biology, this is an excellent course to take, and it has the lab attached to it. Notice 324, that's how many students are in this class. Now, class numbers range from, I think the biggest class I ever saw was just over 400. It was my intro-level psych course. And it took place in the great big humongous lecture theater. That is unusual. Courses are not usually that big. In the first year, I'd say this is probably the biggest class you're gonna see at about 324 in the lecture. Notice the lab only has 36 students, so you do break into smaller groups, which can make the professors a little more accessible. As you go up, so first year classes tend to be really big. As you go up, less and less students require those courses. They tend to get a lot smaller. Smallest class I ever attended was 4 students. It was my 4th year Wittgenstein class because nobody puts themselves through that unless they really love it. So they can be that small, but those are usually in your upper level courses. So the further you go along, the smaller your classes are going to be. So that's the good news. In the meantime, do not be scared to contact your professor or raise your hands and ask questions. If you're in a big class like this, best advice I can give you just as an aside is to sit towards the middle or the front of the class so that you're not getting distracted by everything else behind you. But yeah, they can be a little bit big to start with. Try not to be too intimidated by it. It's a good way to make friends, honestly. But just be aware that those are your class sizes. So there's 324 seats available. 252 of those are already taken. These are the seats that are still available. So you want to pay attention to the labs here because you need seats in the lab. So in the lab, there's 36, in the seats are 22. If I wanted to register for this particular course, I would make note of this CRN number and this CRN number. I need to register in the lecture and the lab at the same time. Let's say I really like this one. This works really well for me. I really want these professors. One of the things I can do is actually just click on it there. It puts a little thumbtack, it pins it. And then when I go through my other options, it'll move all the other courses, but it'll keep that one. So again, these are falling in my gray area. I don't like that. I kind of like this setup. So let's say I'm happy with this. So then I go to my next course, Math 102. I check the final exam date. We're still good here. This one also has a lab attached to it. There are math labs. They usually require working through the actual problems and giving you some practice similar to what's going to be on the final exam. Now there is a quick question in the Q&A that I'm going to answer right now. If you change your mind about your schedule, are we going to be able to switch before school? Absolutely. You can make changes to the courses that you're registered in right up until that September 16th date with no penalty whatsoever. So you can make changes to this right up till September 16th. What I will tell you though, is that once the classes are full, if there's no seats available, you can't register. And a lot of these classes tend to fill up. So my suggestion to you is to pick something, make it as best you can. And then if you have to make changes later, you absolutely can. Just a quick note about wait lists. If you register for a course on the wait list, wait lists are deleted first day of classes. So let's say you're waiting all summer to get into a section and then first day of classes come and the seat hasn't come up, wait lists are deleted. At that point, students still have a week to make changes and it's a free-for-all. So if a student drops a class at that point and the wait list is deleted, whoever gets to that seat first gets it. So if there's a course you really want to get into and your name hasn't come up on the wait list and you're frustrated by that, like I would check every day, first week of classes, because chances are somebody's going to drop that course and then you can jump in. So feel free to do that. Yes, you can make changes to your schedule right up until September the 16th. It's better to do it sooner rather than later just because you don't want to miss your first week of classes if you can avoid it. The last thing in the world you want to do is start behind. But as long as there are seats available, you can add a class up until September the 16th. So you can make changes. That's absolutely okay. So if you don't know what your work schedule is going to be yet, that's fine. Do the best you can. See if you can make work around this and make adjustments. You can do that. Okay, hopefully that answered the question. So I've looked at Math 102. There are 108 seats there, 43. It's one lab, so that's okay. And then I find my English section. Good, there's 27 seats there. I should have classes. Nothing looks to be restricted. Hopefully we're good. So what I want to do is collect these numbers. I like my schedule. Final exams are good. So now I want to register for classes. I'm happy with this. So I collect this number, one for the lecture, one for the lab, one for the Math 102 lecture, one for the lab, one for English 100. There's no lab for English 100. Yay. So this is what that schedule would look like. I collected my CRN numbers. Now Visual Schedule Builder is really nice. It collects these at the bottom. So if I'm happy with this, I've got all my CRN numbers right here. That's super helpful. Then what I want to do is I want to go into UR Self-Service because that's actually where we need to register. So what I try to do is I right-click on UR Self-Service, I open this link in a new tab. And what that will do is it will take me back to the UR Self-Service, to the Add or Drop Course menu. So I'm just letting it open it up. So for those of you who are, if you're in student and you're trying to find this, if you go to registration, Add, Drop, Search for Classes is where it will take you. Okay, and I like to have both tabs open so that I can go back and forth really easily. That makes my life easier, especially if I run into an error or something like that and I need to go back. You don't want to have to rebuild everything or find your classes out of the 500 options that were available to you. So if you have it open in a new tab, you can switch back and forth easily. So what you want to do is you want to take these registration numbers here. There's 5 of them, one for every lecture, one for every lab. I go to Add, Drop, Search for Classes. This will be open to the term that you told the computer that you were looking at. And then what you do is you take one of those numbers and you put one in each of these boxes here. So one for every class, one for every lab. And then you hit Submit Changes. And that will register you for classes. Now what that looks like, you can see some of the classes that I'm registered in here. So it'll say current schedule, it'll say registered in self-service on whatever date. The CRN numbers will be listed. The subject and course codes will be listed here. Credit hours, again, the lecture will have 3 credit hours, the labs will have 0. So that's how you can tell the difference. And the title of the course. So if you registered successfully, they will appear here under your current schedule. If you decide you need to make a change and you want to drop one of those courses, so no, I don't want to be registered in this course anymore, you need to go to this action menu and you can select drop and then submit changes. I don't want to drop that class, but that's how you would do it. You would select drop and hit submit changes and that will take you out of the class. Okay, now keep in mind you have to do that with your labs and your lectures at the same time. Okay. Now, sometimes when we go to register for our classes, like let's say, for example, let's just say for a moment, if I tried to register in 31159, just to show you what this looks like. It shouldn't let me. Oh, it did let me. It shouldn't let me. So while there's add, this is an example of how to drop. Then I could go to drop and hit submit changes and that will take me out. Normally what would happen is that, well, if there's a problem, it'll give you an error. So it shouldn't have let me register in that one because I'm a grad student. So it should have said no, but it did. Don't trust the system to catch all of the errors because it won't. If there's a problem though, you'll get an error and they should pop up down here. And there's a number of different errors that might come up. So I've created a bit of a list for them. So let's take a look back here. Oh, final exams registered, resolve errors. Okay, so here's a bunch of errors that I see all the time. So sometimes there are some errors that pop up that prevent you from registering. And it could be a hold error. So if it's like, oh, you can't register, you've got holds. In that case, you need to allow, or you need to figure out what the hold is and get it removed before you can register for classes. Hold error will actually block you from registering from anything. So if you see that, you'll need to fix your hold first. Another one I see a lot is a prerequisite error. So if you have a prerequisite error, what that means is that the system is not recognizing a prerequisite for the course. So either you don't have the prerequisite, or you do have the prerequisite, but the system isn't picking it up. Now that happens a lot with our first year courses, specifically because our system does not recognize high school prerequisites. It can't see them. So if you do have the prerequisite for the course, so a good example of this is Chem 104. Let's say you did take grade 12 chemistry and you got a 70, and you took pre-calc 30 and you got a 90, and you're like, I totally have the prerequisites for this course. Why isn't it letting me in? It's because we haven't entered the override on the back end. Now, our support staff did go through and check all of the courses that are registered, or all of the students that are registering for URB for this session, and they took a look to see what your prerequisites, which ones you have, and they've put in the overrides for you. So you should be able to register in those courses. But if you run into a prerequisite error, and it's a case that I have the high school prerequisite, contact our office and we will put an override in for you, and do that right away, because we don't want that course to fill up on you while you're waiting for us to get to an error. Okay, so if you're getting a prerequisite error and you're pretty sure that you have it, contact our office and we'll take a look for you. We do need to have your transcript on file in order for us to put that through. So be aware of that. If we haven't sent your transcripts to us, make sure we have them to manage your high school prerequisites for sure. If you have the university level prerequisite, it should you shouldn't run into this problem. If you don't have the prerequisite, you have to take the prerequisite first. Before you take a course, if there's certain things you're expected to know already, they're going to have a prerequisite for a reason. And if you take a course without a prerequisite, you're going to struggle. So make sure you have the prerequisites before you register in the courses would be my suggestion. But if you run into a prereq error, that's usually what it's about. Link errors I see less often now that we're using Visual Builder, but if you get a link error, they usually come along with something else. So a link error means that you have to register for the lab and the lecture at the same time. If you don't, it's going to give you a link error and say, oh, you're missing a lab or a lecture. So you have to put both of those numbers in the box at the same time, or you'll get a link error. And sometimes what happens is you get a prerequisite error for the lecture, so it doesn't let you register for the link error, and then you get a prerequisite error for the lecture. And because it doesn't let you register for the lecture, you get the lab with a link error because you're not registering for the lecture. So you see that in tandem with something else a lot. So if you see a link error, it's because it didn't connect to the right section. Permission required. Sometimes there are courses that require special permission, or let's say, for example, I mentioned with repeats, you're allowed to take any course at the University of Regina twice. If you take a course over again, or if you need to do it a third time, let's say you failed it twice, you'll need to get special permission to take that course a third time, in which case the system won't let you register unless that permission has been recorded. So that's another error that you might see. And then of course I mentioned the restricted. Sometimes you'll run into a college campus or field of study restriction. Some courses are only available to certain students. If you're not one of those students, then that option won't come up. So if you see a course restriction, you'll have to pick a different section, unless that's you. And if you're like, I am one of those students, why isn't it letting me? Again, contact our office and we'll try to take care of that for you. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the website and then show you